Hi, my name is Isabel. I am an electronics engineer, and I also act as a co-director of the Women Who Code network in Bogota. I'm going to present a short discussion about natural language processing in Spanish and all the challenges that faces in this subject. The idea of this presentation is to show some of the challenges that one faces when tries to develop natural language processing in Spanish, when the original language of the content is Spanish, and the alternatives that are in the moment to solve those challenges. First, I want to talk about what it is important to do natural language processing in Spanish. One of the things is the amount of people that is actually creating content in Spanish. This due of the large amount of population of the world that actually speak Spanish is about 572 million of people worldwide, and including people who speak Spanish as a second language. Spanish is the third language most used in the internet, behind English and Chinese, and the second most used language in social networks like Facebook and Twitter. So there's a lot of content and there's a lot of things that it's important to investigate and important to show how it behaves from the things that people are actually created. Shown in numbers in the whole continent, including North America and South America, you can see the distribution of people using the internet for country, being the most used in Argentina, the second country with more users is Bolivia, Chile, and the fourth one is Colombia. And you can see the amount of users on Facebook counted this year, that in total, in only the whole continent, North America, Central America, and South America, 271 million of people that is participating in Facebook in an active form. And the users, internet users, counted to June of 2020 is 385 million. So this is a large amount of people that is creating content and is participating, and it's important to process. It is important to discuss how to analyze this data, because there are a lot of information that is being created and probably is not being treated in the best way it should be. Things you have when you do NLP in English that you don't have in Spanish is that you already have libraries like TextBlob that have pre-trained classification for sentiment analysis, for example. There are common corpus included with libraries. So when you do some analysis based in a common library that use a common corpus, you can replicate the results in another set of data. But it's not the same in Spanish. You have lots of documentation of case uses about NLP in English. And there are many public available corpus that are created and easy to access, free on the internet. One of the solutions that are proposed to do this processing is using translation. There are libraries that actually do a good work, like Google Trans and Translate API. However, those libraries are developed by big companies. They are not open source, more of them. You know that there's also the risk meaning, because translation is not exactly precise. And translation faces certain challenges by itself, like expressions and idioms, words with multiple meanings, and also sarcasm as a difficulty to do the translation approach. So when you try to do it in Spanish, what do you need to do different that, because you don't have those things you have for granted in English? First, you have to find data sets to load in these known libraries like Spacy,
in order to make classifiers and make training, for example, in sentiment analysis. You have the library that can do the job, but you also need a trained corpus to use. The variety of corpus come from universities and research groups, and the thing is, there's no common corpus widely used. Basically, each person tries to use their own data or the data that is given by the university that the person belongs to. So when you try to replicate those results, it's not necessarily the same data or the same results you receive. There are not such a large amount of documentation, and much of the corpus belong to universities that have restrictions for distribution because they were created with not exactly Creative Commons licenses or things like that. So the distribution is not necessarily open. What is the origin of all those things? Most of the research is done by universities, and results are mostly available for the academic elite. It's not something that you publish open source. It's not something that you find freely available on GitHub, things like that. You can find libraries, but not necessarily corpus, because corpus belong to the research groups, so they are not available all the time. The development of NLP in Spanish, the well-done research and also the bleeding edge technology, it belongs to private corporations like Microsoft that has their own data and algorithms to train Spanish grammar. The API is developed by Google and AWS. So when they give you access to these utilities, they are black boxes. You can't interact with them inside. And there are not much tech communities producing results available to general public in Spanish. There are many communities, but most of them are focused on English, not in Spanish. What can do in a better way? One is communicate about the well-developed efforts, things that are being doing good by universities. I'm going to share with you one example. Create a community of Python that is focused on NLP in Spanish. That can be a subset of the already existing community of NLP, but it's important to start to focus on these issues. The other thing is that one of the reasons to do this short discussion is to open for the attendants if they have suggestions or proposals about this the resolution of this kind of issues. And personal question is, how could you contribute to this solution? I want to show you one of the possibilities that would development, and is the SEPLN, that is a community, a Spanish society dedicated to natural language processing, and they have collected a good group of corpuses. They have them available, but not freely. You have to register in order to download them. And you can realize something that is not something that is universal. For example, this is the data set for Spain. This is for Costa Rica. This is for Peru. This is for Uruguay. And this is for Mexico. And the reason for this is that the language is not the same, and the words not necessarily mean the same depending on the country. So this is something that needs to be also tackled. But this is a good advance that is being done, but it's not, they put this for some workshops they do yearly, and they put them available, but this corpus can be used widely. Probably because the information from the corpus comes from Twitter, and probably is not available because of that. But it is a good effort, and they publish They have a publication, they have congresses, investigation, research, training, and so on. This is one of the things that could be wider because this depends more on universities. It's not something like widely open to all people. However, I think I reached my objective, that is putting this to knowledge of the people. So you can process and make suggestions about this. There's my contact in the presentation. Thank you so much for attending this discussion.